Well, I'm Paul Whitaker, and it's the 25th of January 2018. I'm here at the County Ground Derby, and I'm talking to...
Tony Palladino.
Thanks for coming in, Tony. Now, you've been at Derbyshire since 2011, so this is your 8th season?
8th season,
coming up. Why did you choose to come to Derbyshire?
Well, at the end of the 2010 season, I've been playing for Essex. I've been on their books since I was 15, so I've been there for 13 years. And at the end of that season, my contract wasn't renewed with Essex, and I found myself searching for another club. But I'd kind of already sort of preempted that Essex weren't going to renew my contract, so I'd already had a bit of dialogue with John Morris, the coach at the time, and spoken to him and said would they be interested. And John said that they would, and that he'd come and have a look at me during a second team game maybe at some point during the season. So John, it was a good game that he came to watch, because it was a second 11 game that we played against Northants at Billericay. I remember it, and John came, and I actually got 5 for in both innings, so I got 10 in the match, which was a bit lucky to have John there seeing me bowl well. And I also remember the game because Mal, our academy director at the time, was playing that game as well, and I actually got him out twice in the game, which was the first time I think in my career that I'd actually got one up on him, because he normally spanked me about the park. But that was how it sort of came about. And then at the end of the season, I got in contact with John, and he said pop up in, he said have a break and then pop up in November and we'll have a chat. And came up here. It was actually in his office was in this room, in the old way it was set out, and he said he had a 2-year contract offer. Sort of gave me the details of it. The first year wasn't on a lot of money, but to be honest, as long as I had food on the table and a roof over my head, I'd have played for free, because I just wanted a chance. And I signed that day and moved up early January 2011, and then the rest is history really. I've been up here ever since. So that was how it came about. There was one more team interested in me after my release from Essex, which was Sussex, but the time frame was a little bit that they wanted to wait till January before making a decision. But I knew I wanted to come and play here, because I knew these wickets would suit me better, and I think I'd have more chance of nailing down a first team spot. So that was the decision really, and I'd heard that it was a great part of the world, even though I'd never been up here a massive amount. I was really pleased that's how it came about. So
you made the first approach to Derbyshire,
yeah, sort of, because I mean we played Derbyshire. I was playing Derbyshire in a first team game for Essex, and I mentioned it to Greg Smith at the time, who I knew quite well, and he said, like, would you guys be interested? And that was when he said, look, I'll get in touch with John, and that was how the dialogue came about. So I was being quite proactive. I knew that I wanted to continue my career. Some people, when they, impending release, they'll sort of think, right, what else can I do? And I knew that I was good enough to play professional cricket, and I wanted to carry it on. And I think playing at one club for such a long time, you can kind of get a little bit, in a comfort zone and bogged down. And I think I got in that with Essex, and the fresh challenge of coming to Derbyshire, having a bit more responsibility, which it turned out Luke Sutton really gave me the responsibility that I needed, and it really helped me.
Yeah, so you said that you were attracted to Derbyshire because you thought the wickets would help you. Do you feel that you're sort of carrying on in that tradition of the Derbyshire seam bowlers, always getting a bit of movement off the pitch?
Yeah, I've always been that type of bowler growing up. I've always been someone who likes to bowl overs. As a kid, I used to bowl tons in the garden, and I used to go to watch my dad play cricket, and the groundsman cut a little strip on the side of the pitch for me, and I used to just bowl all day. So I kind of learnt my trade doing that, and then I was always someone who didn't like giving away runs, and I never had a lot of pace, so I always had to rely on a bit of guile and a bit of nous and movement. So I learnt quite quickly how to swing the ball and how to get something out of the pitch. and I'd played at Derbyshire a few times for Essex, and I'd always found it always had good carry, and it done a bit, which was one of the reasons why I thought my type of bowling would fare well there. And it turns out, it has over my career. I've obviously played a lot of games here, but my record is pretty good here compared to my other venues, and I think that's the pitch has always kind of suited me here. The bowling from the racecourse end, preferably, and the wind sort of coming over the hotel, helping my outswing. So I've always enjoyed bowling here, and I kind of knew straight away that was somewhere that I think I'd fare well.
Yeah. So what do you think would be the highlight or highlights of your career so far as a bowler?
I mean, as a bowler, my career best, I got 753 against Kent here in 2012 in a really important game, a game that it turned out, if we hadn't won that game, we wouldn't have won the title that year. So that really stands out for me because it was a game that we really shouldn't have won. We were in a bad position, a long way behind when Kent was starting the third innings. And I just remember it really sort of vividly. We were walking out and thinking, like, well, let's give it a real good crack here, and you never know. And I remember I got a couple of wickets that night on the second evening after we'd been bowled out cheaply, and it was a good wicket to bowl on. And I got a couple of wickets that night, and the next morning, they were pretty cruising. And then I ended up bowling. I can't remember. I'm sure Griff would have the exact number of overs I bowled, but I remember bowling about 12, 13 overs on the spin. Ended up getting 7 for, and we bowled them out, and we knocked off 290 odd in the fourth innings, which is a great chase on a wicket that was helpful, and they had a good attack as well.
Yeah, I think we have 1 or 2 wickets left. 2 wickets left, I think.
Yeah, 2 wickets left. I think Grunners and Dan Redfern were not out at the end. Dan played a great innings, and Grunners came up, did a little cameo that he normally did. But it was just a game that really stands out. Probably my favourite, win in a Derbyshire shirt. And it was just a game that those sort of games when you're not expected to win because you're so far behind in the game, and it just goes to show that you should never give up in any game. And that was one that really stands out. So with the ball, that would be a highlight, and taking a hat trick against Leicester and getting Sarwan for the hat trick ball. That was my 200th first class wicket as well, which was quite a nice little memento as well. And I've got a great picture on the wall at my mum and dad's, sort of a freeze frame of each ball that Griff was nice enough to do for me, and I've got that mounted on the wall at my mum and dad's, which is something always I like to look at when I go back home. But it was with the ball, those highlights definitely stand out for me. Yeah,
and with the bat, I would presume that your innings against Australia,
my one and only first class 100, probably good enough batter to have had a couple more, but I've never quite managed to get it. But that was definitely with the bat far and away. I mean, it was a good attack, probably one of the better attacks I've faced, but it was an absolute belter of a wicket. I mean, it was flat as a pancake. It wasn't a great one for bowling on, so I was lucky in that respect. But no, I mean, to get 100 against 4 test bowlers was definitely something that I'll never forget. I mean, the Stark and Mitchell Johnson, Jackson Bird and Nathan Lyon was the attack, and it was just great. I mean, growing up watching videos of Ian Botham, it was watching him destroy Australia, and I was never quite good enough to play for England, so I never got that chance to play Test cricket or international cricket, which is a shame because you always dream of that. But it was nice to actually get one over on the old enemy, and a few years later I got an 80 odd against them as well, which was great as well. So a couple of times that I've actually had a couple of decent performances against Australia. Was really nice. So those two would be highlights in that, and then just one probably I got 60 odd against Hampshire in 2012 in the final game of the season when we were in a little bit of trouble. I come in as night watchman and sort of counter attacked, and that does stand out. in a competitive environment. Obviously, though Australia games were friendlies, but in a competitive environment, that really stands out for me because to get those runs in such an important game was massive for me, and obviously helped us get over the line in the championship season.
Yes, you just mentioned they're playing against the Australian teams. There's been quite a bit of talk recently about preparation that touring teams have. How do county players look at playing a game against the tourists? It doesn't seem to be, certainly from the club's point, I don't mean the club as in Derbyshire, but all the county clubs, it doesn't seem to be particularly high on their list of priorities at the moment.
I mean, I think that comes down to workloads. I mean, because at the end of the day it's a friendly, so it doesn't have a massive bearing on the end of the season, on where you finish in tables and things like that. So when a tour game comes in the middle of a season, especially in a busy period, we played West Indies last year. I was lucky enough to captain that. It was another very proud moment for myself. We had a very, very young side. And I originally wasn't going to play that game, but I said to the club that I think I should play, because I think it would send the right message to some of the young lads, but also otherwise you're going to have someone very young captain in the side, which I think was a little bit naughty, because captaining your county is, for me, is a massive honour, and it shouldn't just be sort of thrown about. So when at that time we were obviously doing really well in the T20, so there was a lot of guys who we couldn't really risk getting an injury, and playing against the West Indies, you're going to get a lot of short stuff and a lot of stuff around your ear, so we didn't need someone getting hit in the head and then not being available for a quarter final or something like that. So I can see when those games are in the middle of the season, I think the clubs, unless you've got a really big squad, you kind of struggle to put out a real first team for it. When we played Australia in 2012, it was earlier on in the season, and it was in a bit of a break, so we were able to field a few more first teamers. So when the game comes at a time when there's not much cricket on, all the lads, and if you play anyway, you take it 100% seriously. But it's just, I think it's the matter of the timing of the set, and it's sometimes the touring teams really don't seem like they want to be there either, because the West Indies weren't, once it got a bit cold, they last year they weren't too keen on carrying on the game, and then they ended up just batting out for a bit of practice in the end. So it swings around about. Sometimes the touring sides don't come to play either. Whereas when we played Australia in 2012, that was their first game of the tour, and they tried to win the game. They weren't worried about practice. They wanted to win the game. So it was a very good game. We ended up blocking it out for a draw. So when you see it's always nice, especially for someone like me who wasn't good enough to play international cricket, to actually play against test cricketers is great for me, and gives you a chance to test yourself against the players playing at the highest level.
Yes, things are certainly different from the photograph we have on the wall here of the ground floor when Derbyshire played against Australia in '48, although possibly Bradman playing was
I think that might
would have probably brought a few people in.
One of the all-time greats.
Yes, they were supposed to be queuing around the ground outside. So can we come a bit more up to date now, Tony? You've been at the club for a few years, and you've got a testimonial season coming up this season. So what do you think your relationship is with the supporters here? Do you think
I'd like to think it's a pretty good one. Yeah. I've always felt very welcomed by everyone from straight away. All the guys have been always been great. And I've tried to kind of be approachable. I feel like that's when I was younger, and the cricketers who kind of made themselves available for autographs or just for a quick chat really always made my day just speaking to them. So I've always tried to make myself as approachable as possible. And if someone wants to have a chat on the boundary, then I'm happy to, as long as it doesn't sort of distract from the game. I'm always happy to have a quick chat and see how they're going and stuff. So I've obviously got a little in the corner of the boundary. There's a little club that I know a few people sit, and I've got a couple of mascots down there. So
the well-known dinosaur.
Yeah, Dino the dinosaur. Yeah. But I feel like I definitely feed off the crowd, but I feel like if you give 100% and you try your best, then there's not a lot more you can do. And I've always tried to do that whenever I play for Derby. Some days it's worked, some days it hasn't, but I've always felt that people are coming to pay their money to watch you, and if you give a sort of half-hearted performance, which I know some people do, it's not nice to say, but I've played with people who've done that in their career, and sort of it does upset me a little bit. But I've always been someone to try and give 100% every time I play, and I feel like that, the supporters appreciate that, and I've always appreciated their support. So I think that's something that drives you on as a cricketer, knowing that people are coming to watch you play, and they're supporting you. So you have to give some back, and make sure that when you cross over that rope to go on the pitch, that you give it 100% every time. And if it's your day, it's your day, and if it's not, then you come back stronger the next day and try even harder, and that's all you can really ask, I think.
Yes, you mentioned the dinosaur there. I think it's when we were at Canterbury one year. We had that. The dinosaur was sitting there in front of us, and one of the Kent members came on and said, "Can you tell me what's the significance of the chicken?"
They didn't realise it was a dinosaur.
They didn't realise it was a dinosaur. We had to explain.
I'm glad it's not a chicken anyway. I don't think that would be as good a mascot to have. But
yes.
I really appreciate the dinosaur, and it always makes me chuckle when I turn around and see it pinned to the boundary board. So it's something that I'll always appreciate.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's good. From a supporter's point of view, it's good to have some sort of rapport with the players, and acknowledgement with you at an away game, that they will just wave to you when they see you in the crowd.
And it's even more important for the people who do come to the away game, because they're normally in the minority. So it's they need support as well as you do. So.
Yes, I'm sure we do. We're just about at the end of this session of the tape, so if we could just halt it here, and then we'll have another chat when we've reloaded the film.
No
so thanks for the moment, Tony, and we'll chat again in a little while.
No worries.